Hello my disciples, Father Andrew here. This time we're going to be covering a much simpler topic for today's character cross-section, that being the Rake, a very well known classic creepypasta monster. But anyway, getting straight into it, the most iconic appearance of this creature comes from a short story, which essentially goes like this. A guy is stirring in bed, he wakes up, he sees the thing at the end of his bed and it looks almost human and is sitting on the end. After taking a closer look, he realizes that the thing isn't human, his jimmies get thoroughly rustled, it then looks at him, gets spooked and runs off, and the protagonist is paranoid that it's going to return. This being the original story that all the popularity of the character originally stemmed from. The exact reasons why being as follows. First thing is the premise. This is a creature that intrudes into your home and could potentially attack you at your most vulnerable, which is an instinctual fear humans and most other living things have. Second thing is the actual design of the creature. Its strange, almost human but not quite appearance combined with its large eyes and dull teeth puts the creature firmly in the depths of the uncanny valley. For context, the uncanny valley is a psychological response in humans to things that look human, albeit not fully, they look off or wrong in some way. As to why we have this response, there's two theories. The first being it's to recognize corpses, and basically it's a safety measure. You see a corpse, that means something around has killed them, and chances are that might still be around, which a lot of people agree is probably the most likely. But the second theory is that, at some point there was an evolutionary reason to be afraid of something that looked human but wasn't at all. The most likely answer to this being other species of hominid, which evolved around the same time as humans did. But anyway, a third reason this story was so successful is because it was simplistic, universally terrifying to most people, and was fairly well grounded compared to its competitors. That iconic, bizarre trail cam footage photo adding a layer of authenticity to it. The fact the photo was so realistic as well with no obvious signs of editing adding even more authenticity to the story, which allowed it to propagate even further. The story propagating so much that it even ended up on mainstream news at one point, which I will now show you.
Thanks for watching NBC 33 News Morning Edition. The time is 6:26. Okay, so you know how we ask you to send in your pics so we can put them in our newscast? Well, you gotta see what one viewer claims his friend found at a hunting camp in Berwick. I really don't even know what that is. The guy who sent it in didn't want us to mention his name, but tells us this is totally for real. He says last weekend his friend's family found one of their hunting camps destroyed, but the SIM card was still there, and so was this crazy image. I put the pic up on Facebook, and this is what some of you had to say about it.
And with that, now to talk about the actual origins of the story itself. Back in 2005 on 4chan's B-board, a set of anons started to create a new monster for a collaborative writing project, in which the first prototype design for the Rake would be created. This design being humanoid, 6 foot tall when standing, but usually preferring to crouch and move on 4 limbs, similar to a hominid or ape. Has very pale skin, the face completely blank except for 3 solid green eyes, 1 in the middle of the forehead, and 2 on either side of its head towards the back. The creature would usually be seen in front yards or suburb areas, usually just watching from a distance, albeit it would become hostile and stand up to attack if approached. When it attacks, a mouth opens up from what would be the chin, revealing many tiny but dull teeth. This illustration being a recreation of this concept, and I can honestly see why they decided not to go with this, it looks a bit stupid. Then after some quick redesign, they'd settled on the 2 eyes, the dull teeth, and the thing looking a bit more human, which worked in its favour because with the addition of the photograph of what is presumably the same creature, which was just kind of tacked on and people just accepted it as being the same thing because it matched the description, this grounded the design, making it much more effective, which gave us its more iconic design from that time period. Then much later, the fandom redesigned it, leading to this design, which is the design most people recognise now. I would tell you when this design was made, but unfortunately I can't find an exact date. We're also going to be discrediting this one because this is not the original version, that has nothing to do with the original creator as far as I'm aware. But anyway, now I want to talk about the actual morphological observations I've made of the creature's 4chan design and the secondary design. Firstly, when it comes to 4chan design's morphology, it has 3 eyes giving it nearly 360-degree vision. This combined with the fact they're glowing implies they have a tapetum lucidum, which is a reflective layer of tissue in the eye that helps animals see well in the dark. This field of vision combined with the fact it's nocturnal implies that this original version is a prey animal. It also has really pale skin, implying it doesn't make much contact with sunlight, and the many tiny dull teeth reminds me of a species of sauropod found in Nigeria which had over 500 teeth. We combine this with the fact that it becomes hostile when approached, and will stand up being 6 foot tall when it does this. This denotes that, to me at least, it is a nocturnal herbivore, one that has many flat grinding teeth it uses to grind up vegetation, and due to it being regularly preyed on, implied by its 3 eyes giving it 360-degree vision, this would explain why it becomes hostile when approached, because as far as it's concerned, you're approaching it because you're a predator, and its best defense is to stand up on its hind legs like some prey animals do and to just start throwing hands. But the fact it has a very humanoid body plan implies that this creature is related to hominids or humans in some capacity, if it's even from Earth to begin with. It also, as far as the proto-story is concerned, doesn't attack humans unless provoked, and considering it just sits there and watches them, it seems to be naturally curious, which hints at this proto-version of the Rake being something akin to a primate like a chimp. As far as intelligence goes, it probably intentionally keeping its distance from what could potentially be a threat but curiously observing. And with that one covered, now to talk about the second one. The second version of the creature has a few notable differences. First being it only has 2 eyes instead of 3 and both are set in the front of its head like a primate. Second being it has an actual facial structure and visible mouth with small dull teeth just like the original design. Third being, this one is much braver, actively intruding into people's houses and seemingly just making itself at home. That being until something rustles its jimmies and scares it off. This version also prefers to move on 4 limbs, much like the original, albeit the fact it has 2 eyes in the front of its head and an actual facial structure implies it has some kind of primate lineage, a lack of tail putting it towards grey apes, these being things like orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos and people. Albeit that relies on it being from Earth, and which we have no confirmation, but honestly, I'm just gonna say it is. I don't think it's an alien, because why would an alien come to Earth just to fuck around? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, with that is the morphology, and that brings us to the end of the video. Sorry this episode was so short, I had to cover something simpler this time. I'm just gonna be honest with you, I wanted to cover Scarecrow from Batman, Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight, but I just don't have the motivation to do it. Who knows, maybe I'll do a video on him another day. But yeah, see you in the next video. Goodbye.